It's been praised as a historic win for vulnerable children. A $530 million settlement agreed to in principle by the Manitoba government will see the province compensate an estimated 30,000 people who were provincially funded care between 2005 and 2019. During that time, the Manitoba government required CFS agencies to remit over $300 million intended for the care, education, and advancement of children in care back to Manitoba's general revenue. Former CEO of Southern First Nations Child and Family Services Authority, Elsie Flette, is a representative plaintiff, and she joins us now. Elsie, thanks so much for being with us here today. Can you tell us more about why the Manitoba government was requiring CFS agencies to hold the money back from kids in care and how that came about?
Okay, I'm not sure why they did that. They started doing that with the First Nations agencies in 2005. The practice of holding back the child tax benefit money, or what we call children's special allowance, actually began in the early 90s, 92, 93. It was after we finished the AJI process and we had these large numbers of children transfer specifically or particularly from Winnipeg CFS, that the province changed their policy and asked the First Nations agencies also to remit the children's special allowance. The reason for that, we were told, was because they were now losing the revenue from these children that they had collected their children's special allowance when they were in care with the non-Indigenous agencies. And so it was a revenue loss for the province, which is why they changed the policy and then asked that the First Nations agencies also remit. And this is for provincially funded children. And of course, the Métis agencies, they were established as an outcome of the Aboriginal Justice Inquiry, so they almost, like from the beginning, had to remit the children's special allowance as well.
Now, the practice was deemed by the Court of King's Bench as a breach of the children's charter rights to be free from discrimination. Can you share more on how this has impacted children in care?
Well, it particularly impacts the group of kids that are funded by the province. And the First Nations agencies have two funders for children in care. They determine whether it's the federal government who funds or the province on a residency statement that is taken. So the federally funded children have been able to retain their children's special allowance all the time. Like the feds have never made a move to claw it back. The money is intended to provide extras for kids that is not covered under the regular maintenance that children in care get. And it would pay for things like, if a child's particularly gifted in sports, or wanting powwow lessons, or someone wanting to establish a registered education savings plan for them, those kind of extra things that would not normally be funded for those children, the children's special allowance is a source of funds for that.
So $530 million is what's been agreed on in principle here. Do we know how many people are affected and how much money the affected children might expect to receive?
We don't right now. The settlement is made up of the principal amount, which is the actual dollars that were taken by the province, and then there's the cost of living or interest adjustment on that, and then as well as what we call the charter damages. We've been calling it a resolution fund, but really it's to compensate the kids for the damages. We're not sure how many children are involved. It would cover the time period between 2005 and 2019. We estimate somewhere between maybe 15,000 to 20,000 children that would have been in and out of care during that period of time. The amount each child will get will be prorated because children are in care for different periods of time. So there may be children who have now aged out and who were in care for that full period of time, and others who might have been in care for 6 months or a year and then returned home. So the payments will be prorated based on the day's care of each child.
Now, if I remember from what the lawyers were saying on the day this was announced, somebody who could have been in care the whole time, it could be like $80,000. Is that correct?
Well, it could be significant because that time period, I believe the lawyers have quoted that to be 144 months. Mm-hmm. So when you're looking at the children's special allowance, which is between $500 and $600 a month, So that could add up to well over $100,000 for some children, and then when you add in the interest as well as the damage portion. So yes, for some children it could be significant.
Now, distribution plans in the works. I believe you were hoping everything in place by the fall or so. What can you tell us about that and how difficult it might be to track down some of these people?
Well, first of all, with the distribution, we are working right now on the distribution plan as well as a communication plan. We're working on setting up a website, so there's a place where people can get current information and reaching out to anybody who might be in that class. We know that the agencies themselves would have quite a bit of information because they would have been billing the province for the maintenance of those children. So there would be records both at the agency as well as the province. But it's possible that if a child is missed or some agency doesn't have a record going back to 2005. So we are also going to be doing, as widespread a communication strategy as we can to make sure that every person who's eligible and in that class is aware of it.
Elsie, we'll leave it there. Appreciate you laying out some more of the details on all of this for us.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Thank you.